most beneficent, most merciful. All praise is due to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His aid, and we ask for His forgiveness. Dear students, I would like to welcome you in lecture number 14, and as I said, this lecture is very important because I'm going to give a quick revision of all the previous lectures, in addition to some samples of the questions that will help you to understand the pattern, the way of the questions in the final exam. So far we talked about different topics and different chapters. In chapter 1, which was about animals and human language, we talked about properties of human language, and we talked about displacement, productivity, cultural transition, and so on. Now here, after each chapter, I'm going to give you some examples of the questions that might come, or just to have an idea about the type of questions. And as I said that you'll be having about 50 questions. Each question has 4 choices, A, B, C, and D, and you have to select, you have to choose, or you have to take the best answer. In lecture number 2 also, we talked about the sound of language, and there we defined phonetics. We talked about voiced and voiceless sounds, place of articulation, starting from bilabials and ending by velars and glottals. And then we moved to manner of articulation. We talked about stops, fricatives, till, glides, and then vowels, and we talked about diphthongs. Now here I'm going to show you some examples of these 2 units or chapters. For example, now in chapter 1, a question may come in this way. I have selected a question, a sample question from chapter number 1. Now, one of the human properties which organized at 2 levels or layers simultaneously. Yes. Now here we have 4 choices, A, B, C, and D. And of course the correct answer is letter D, that is duality. Another sample of the previous chapter, chapter number 2, which was about sounds of language. Now here you may have a question like this, or different questions, but this is an example of the type of questions which will come from this particular chapter. Here we have the 2 sounds, like sound F and V. These 2 sounds are described as bilabial, labiodental, dental, or alveolar. And here, of course, I have bolded the correct answer. These 2 sounds, F and V, are described and considered as labiodental. We moved then to the sound of patterns of language. We talked about phonology in chapter or lecture 3, phonemes till legion, and in chapter 4 we talked about word formation. And here these 2 samples of these 2 chapters. About chapter number 3, you may have some questions, and one of these could be in this way, but of course it is not the same in the final exam. Now, which of the following words are considered as minimal pair? We have night and dark, sight and side, high and low, sun and light. Now, which one is of these words are considered as a minimal pair? Of course, the answer is B, and this is the best answer and the correct answer for this question. In word formation, here I'm presenting a sample of one of the questions that may or might come. Words formed from the essential letters of a set of other words. Is it coinage, or blending, or clipping, or acronyms? And of course the answer is acronyms. In chapter 5, which was about morphology, and chapter 6, it was about grammar. From 5, I have selected a question. The underlined word in the sentence, the child's wildness shocked the teachers. Now, the word child alone, without S, child, is it functional, or lexical, or inflectional, or derivational? And of course here the word child is considered as lexical. From the chapter 6 or lecture 6, which was about grammar, also I have selected a question. Words need to refer to various kinds of actions. This is a definition. So which kind of words used to refer to various kinds of actions? Is it A, nouns, or B, articles, or C, adjectives, or the last one, D, verbs? Of course the answer is verbs, and verbs are considered as words used to refer to various kinds of actions. In chapter or lecture 7, we talked about syntax, the deep and surface syntax, structural ambiguity. And in chapter 8, which was about semantics, also here I have selected some questions which will help you to understand the way of asking questions in these two chapters. This is a definition one. Space is the study of the principles and processes by which sentences are constructed in particular languages. Which is the answer? Of course the answer is syntax. In semantics, the underlined word in the sentence, the boy kicked the ball, is it considered as an agent, theme, an instrument, or experiencer? And of course here the answer of the ball is considered as theme. If the line is under the boy, the answer will be the agent or agent. In chapter 9 or lecture 9, we talked about pragmatics, and in 10, it was about discourse analysis. And here a question may come in this way. Expressions such as tomorrow or here are obvious examples of bits of language that can be only understood in terms of the speaker's intended meaning, and they are technically known as these two, tomorrow and here. They are technically known as content, deixis, anaphora, or inference. Of course these two, tomorrow and here, they are considered as deixis. In discourse analysis, we have a question as a sample. This question is a definition question. Here we have describe space, describes the way in which a text is tied together by linguistic devices or tools. Here we have cohesion, coherence, hedges, or implictures. And of course here the answer of this question is cohesion. In lecture number 11, which was about first language acquisition, we defined acquisition, and we talked about the acquisition stages. And then in chapter or lecture 12, which was about second language learning, we defined foreign language, second language acquisition learning, and we talked about some methods. Now in or from chapter or lecture 11, which was about first language acquisition, a question may come in this way. The earliest use of speech-like sounds has been described as this stage. Is it two-word stage or holophrastic, or one-word stage or cooing? Of course, the earliest use of speech-like sounds is called, this stage is called as cooing. So the answer is G. From lecture 12 or chapter 12, the question may come in this way. The gradual development of ability in a language by using it naturally in communicative situations with others who know the language is known as, we have learning, A, B is input, C is acquisition, and D is method. Of course, this process is considered as acquisition, not learning. Chapter or lecture 13, which was about gestures, we talked about the meaning, types of signs till the structure of signs. A question may come in this way. One type of gestures that seem to be a reflection of the meaning of what is said. Is it didactics? Is it beats or iconics or oralism? Of course, the answer to this question is iconics. Now, these are some examples of the questions that may come in the final exam, and as I said, they are not questions from the final exam, but the way, the techniques that I'm using here, I'm presenting just to simplify and help you to understand, because I have received many questions or many inquiries from different students asking about the exam, the type of the questions that I'm going to give. Now, these are different types from different chapters, from different lectures. I have selected some samples, a sample of each chapter, which will help you to understand the way I'm going to ask you in the final exam. And finally, I would like to thank all of you for being with me during this course, Introduction to Linguistics, and I wish all the best to all of you and hope to see you again. Many thanks to all of you, and see you again. Bye bye.